Megan Fox.
And Megan Fox has the story.
Megan Fox.
Megan Fox.
Megan Fox writes at PJ Media.
Eat Tucker.
And that was your last.
Damn it, man. I cried for 2 days.
Megan, thank you very much for that.
So, I can explain the bed thing.
If you don't show up and vote, up your ass. I don't care if you're in the hospital. Crawl to the stake. Crawl there.
It's like Jesus going to the temple. He's like, I got a whip. Get out! Get out! The lovely and wonderful Megan Fox. Not that one.
Not that one. Not the weird one that drinks blood in his toe thumb.
Megan Fox.
Megan. And honestly, Megan, if you don't like it, I'm sorry.
She's the devil.
Megan.
Megan Fox.
Megan.
Megan.
Megan Fox.
I've been very nice to you, although I could probably maybe not be based on the way you have treated me, but I wouldn't do that.
You've never met a like me. You want to tangle? You want to go? Holy sh!
Too much cussing on this. I guess we didn't bleep it, so we got to turn it off. But it's
You pissed off the wrong woman.
oh my God, I have been assaulted. But Megan Fox runs wild on you, brother.
She's the devil.
Not for publication.
The story.
I'm Megan.
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 Megan Fox.
Thank
Thank you. Cheers.
Well, hello. How are you? Welcome to the show. I'm Megan Fox, a journalist. I write with pjmedia.com. Thanks for being here today. I sure appreciate you guys. Today's a big day. I'm going to be interviewing Greg Anderson in just a little while, just a few minutes. I wanted to start the show a little early because I'm super nervous. I don't think I've ever been this nervous for an interview ever in my life. I don't know why I feel that way. I normally don't, but I am sweating. Sweating. Is it a little dark in here? I feel like it's a little dark. Maybe I need there. It's a little lighter. Okay. I'm sweating. I'm so nervous. I don't know why I'm so nervous. I've interviewed a lot of people. But this one means a lot to me, and maybe that's why. And one of the reasons why I wanted to come here a little early was because to correct something that we talked about yesterday on the show. So yesterday, we talked about the Kushnirs and their fight with NICA. I'm so nervous that my throat's closing up. I've been coughing for the last 15 minutes. It's so bad. I don't know why. I don't know why I'm so nervous, but I am. I might as well just admit it because I am feeling like I'm going to have a heart attack. So I know I was on with Tucker Carlson and I wasn't, I was about this nervous. I was about the same nervousness as I was before I went on Tucker Carlson. I wasn't as nervous when I was on with Jesse Waters, maybe because I had done Fox News already, so I kind of knew how it was going to go. But I know I'm dorking out. I'm dorking out, you guys. I can't handle it. All right. Anyway, I have to go over something that is not right from yesterday. So we talked about NICA, and we talked about a law in 2013 that did not get passed. And I went off on a rant on Ron DeSantis, and I said, what the hell is he doing? What good is he? And why is he letting Florida go to the dogs? Because that's how it seems. However, it was brought to my attention that Ron DeSantis actually did lobby for and sign a bill in 2021 to update the NICA system. So hold on, let me share that. So maybe I'm not as mad at Ron DeSantis as I thought I was. Although I don't think he should be running for president. I think he needs to stay in Florida and just be Florida's best governor ever and get this stuff fixed. All right, here we go. Governor DeSantis signs bill expanding injured infant compensation program. The bill follows a Miami Herald investigation into family compensation, which we read on the show yesterday about NICA and how corrupt they were and what they were doing by withholding funds from handicapped children. How dare they? Governor Ron DeSantis signed off on a measure increasing compensation for families whose infants suffer injuries during birth. The bill, SB 1786, targets the Florida Birth-Related Neurological Injury Compensation Association, NICA, which helps care for infants born with brain or spinal cord injuries. The reform package boosts the initial payment to parents or legal guardians of children accepted into the NICA program from $100,000 to $250,000. That total will then increase by 3% each year on January 1st. So that's a difference that the bill, is supposed to fix, is that the amount of money goes up. But I read through the bill. I have the text of the bill. I didn't read through it with a fine-tooth comb, but I scanned it, and I still haven't seen anything in there about caseworkers having to tell families what benefits they are owed. So, and that was what it looks like was the big problem in the investigation, was that they weren't being told all of the benefits that they qualified for. And so they didn't get those benefits because no one told them they were entitled to them. Well, the one problem I see with this bill is that I'm not seeing that in there. Now, it does provide for audits every 3 years by a higher government organization, which I guess is a good idea. But remember, this was passed in 2021. And so you can go and you can read this article. I'll drop it in the chats. By the way, how are you doing, Rumble? How you doing, Locals? We got the Locals chat open, meganfox.locals.com. And over on Rumble, Megan Fox Investigates. Make sure that you go over there and subscribe, even if you watch on YouTube, because YouTube is asshole, and eventually they will get rid of me over there. So make sure that you are subscribed on Rumble and on Locals. A bunch of you are always telling me that you don't get the notifications on YouTube. And every day I try to tell you, they're not going to send you notifications. That's not happening. So you need to go to meganfox.locals.com and follow me there for free. Turn on the notifications, download the app on your phone, turn notifications to on, and when I go live, you will get those notifications. So, all right. So this bill was signed in 2021. However, the problems in NICA have not been resolved. Here is another article that I found that was in 2022. Hold on, where is it? It's not that one. It's not that one. Aha, here it is. January 25th, 2022. So this is after the bill was passed that was supposed to reform NICA. Look at the headline. Accused of refusing aid to disabled kids, a Florida agency responded by hiring a PR guru. Dan Bookhout was accustomed to fighting over almost everything in his dealings with Florida's Birth-Related Neurological Injury Compensation Association, the program underwriting care for his severely disabled daughter, Arwen. The program's no culture, he said, was exhausting. So Bookhout thought it seemed fishy when administrators offered, without a fight, to buy or lease a nearly $30,000 robotic device to help his then 5-year-old walk. And when administrators asked for his help to promote the device to other parents, I think that's supposed to say and then administrators asked for his help to promote the device to other parents. What Bookhout didn't know at the time was that the program was being investigated by the Miami Herald and the nonprofit newsroom ProPublica for its stinginess with parents. And NICA administrators, aware of that fact, apparently wanted to get out ahead of what they expected to be tough findings. NICA turned to a public relations firm to build goodwill and try to change its public perception. So instead of, doing the right thing and just handing out the money that they're supposed to hand out, they went the Amber Heard route and got a PR firm. Do you know how much money it costs to hire PR? Nearly $200,000 was earmarked for a PR contract with Saks Media in the same time as NICA was rejecting parental requests for wheelchairs, therapies, and in-home nursing. Although the CEO of Saks Media said the firm's work helped usher in reform in its own way, parents and lawmakers say the contract represents one more questionable decision by NICA's past management. The PR contract made sense at the time to NICA's administration, given the questions it was receiving from the Herald. The Miami Herald has been conducting an investigation into NICA for several months, submitting numerous requests for public records and interviews. Ryan Cohn, a Saks executive vice president, wrote in December 2019 in a proposal to NICA. We see this as the path forward to win in the court of public opinion, fail, and to protect your mission and the future of the organization. He said, I'm sorry, but when you are representing an organization whose only purpose is to provide injured children with medical services and care and support, and you don't do that, the only way forward to win public support is to get on your knees and apologize and beg the public for their forgiveness. It's not to hire a PR firm. It's to then help the people you didn't help and throw yourselves on the mercy of the public. The public relations firm helped NICA place a glowing op-ed in a Tallahassee newspaper and shepherded a second story about NICA's offer to buy robotic gait trainers for children who couldn't walk. Along the way, NICA gave the public relations firm something it had refused to give the families themselves, the contact information for other families in the program. For decades, families of Florida children born with catastrophic brain injuries wanted to connect with each other for ideas and strategies, for advice on equipment and therapies, to buck each other up amid crisis, or just to vent. NICA administrators refused to share their names, citing the federal patient privacy law called HIPAA, which keeps individuals' medical information confidential. It was an intentional effort to keep families separate, said Bookhout. Isolating us was a way of consolidating power. Oh my God, I dislike these people so much. These are the tactics of abusers, you guys. In the end, state lawmakers insisted that administrators do what families demanded, listen to parents and change. The legislature expressed outrage and demanded an overhaul after a series of stories was published by the Herald and ProPublica. And by the way, the legislation that was passed with an overwhelming majority. I think it was unanimous. All Republicans and all Democrats in Florida all voted for it, which is unheard of, right? A crucial byproduct of that transformation is that NICA families are now finding each other, able to talk to each other, to support each other, and are being heeded by the newly reconstituted NICA board, which for the first time includes a NICA parent and an advocate for people with disabilities. The parents have created a Facebook group to share experiences. NICA is hiring an ombudsman and is considering creating a parents' council. That's a very good idea. They should do that immediately. At the NICA board meeting this month, the newly appointed board chairman told parents, "You have been heard." Well, it's more like we have been caught. Would they have done any of this without getting caught is the question. Yeah. Red Pen, thank you for the super chat. It says medium wage for medium smart. I appreciate that. All right. I have my camera in a weird place. I know it's like you guys are like, don't look at off to the side. Look at the camera. Am I looking at you right now? Does that work if I'm looking? Because I feel like it's twisted or something. But anyway, I have to look at my screens, otherwise I can't read to you. So I will try. I will try to look into the camera when I can. All right. I'm not quite with my setup yet. I'll have to figure out where to put everything. But the new computer system is working, but it takes up some different space, and I'm still trying to figure out how to set my desk up for the best setup here. All right, moving on. Ron Sachs, the founder and CEO of Sachs Media, said the contract was never merely about buffing NICA's image with families, policymakers, the public, and reporters. His staff interviewed a handful of parents in the program to make their concerns known to administrators, hence the need for the names of NICA parents, which NICA made him promise not to share. His goal, in addition of improving the program's messaging, was to foster positive change, he said, and Sachs said it succeeded by improving NICA's website and benefits handbook and helping leaders communicate better. The firm also championed NICA's effort to increase its initial payment to parents from $100,000 to $250,000, a centerpiece of the legislative reform package. They're better at organization now, Sachs said. Well, I mean, call me crazy, but I feel like when you have this government-funded thing, it better be good at organization. And I mean, it's got, millions, probably hundreds of millions of dollars to disperse, and it wasn't set up properly. It's mind-boggling. Duncan, Idaho sent a $5 tip on locals and says, as a state employee working in the social health services, the way that is by default considered informing people of most issues on their case is to send mail to their last known address. It sucks, but if you call every person to verbally explain everything to them, you get behind on your massive caseload. Then again, I work child support and not anything like NICA, but unfortunately, this is generally the default level of service you get when you're a customer client of the state. Avoid having the state get involved in your life if at all possible. Yeah, well, that's good advice. Definitely. All right, so just so you know how today's going to work, Greg should be here shortly. And when he does get here, I'm not going to be able to pay attention to the chat so much. So please just hang in there with me. If you do have questions, you'll have to send super chats. Otherwise, I'm going to miss them. They're going to fly by in the chat, and I'm not going to see it because I need to concentrate on my guest. Okay, so let's take this out. And let me just check my email. Greg's running a little bit late. He's going to be here at 11:15, which is fine. So we will see him at 11:15. He'll be here shortly. And so today we're going to be talking about, with Greg, we're going to be talking about the Kushnirs. I do have a few questions for him about the Kowalski case, but I'm going to try not to get bogged down in that because I know he's had a million interviews about that. And I am interested in his next case with the Kushnirs. So if you are not familiar with Elina and Vadim Kushnir, they are parents who had a very similar run-in with Dr. Sally Smith. And in their case, they were accused of child abuse, including CSA, if you know what that is. I can't say it on YouTube. Which, of course, is reputation destroying. And it was not that. It was birth trauma that was recorded on the record in the birth records. But like Sally Smith does, she doesn't look at those records. Or if she does look at them, she says, that doesn't matter. It's child abuse because everything I see is child abuse. That's how Sally Smith operates. And so the Kushnirs they filed a lawsuit against JHACH and Sally Smith in 2021. And Greg Anderson has been representing them. But their case has gotten hung up because they had also applied to NICA, which we were just reading about. NICA, which has been embroiled in all its own scandals and required the entire legislature of Florida to get involved to make them pay out funds. Well, in the Kushnirs case, a judge in the case with NICA decided that they did qualify, their son did qualify for birth injury, oxygen. He was deprived of oxygen at birth, and that he qualified for NICA benefits. Well, NICA appealed, and that's where they're at now. Their case is stuck and hung up in NICA, in this NICA court thing. And because of it, from what I understand, the court in Sarasota does not have jurisdiction to continue the lawsuit for medical malpractice any further until the NICA appeal gets worked out. So I wanted to talk to Greg Anderson today about that appeal and where it's at and how much longer perhaps this will take, and just about that case in general. And I was told Greg has some things to say about NICA, and that should be pretty interesting to find out. I mean, and here we have a thing that's set up by our government for injured children, and it's supposed to help them. And just like almost everything set up by government, it ends up actually harming you instead. It turns out that NICA actually raided Medicaid to the tune of $51 million and had to repay it, was ordered to repay it. This is unbelievable. Those of you who missed the show yesterday, let me see if I can pull it up. Here we go. We went over this yesterday. But check this out. A Florida fund for injured kids raided Medicaid. Now it's repaying $51 million. What? If you or I defrauded Medicaid, how many years in prison do you think we would serve? How many? And yet, this compensation fund run by a board of directors of untouchable people, all that happens to them is they have to resign. How come they don't go to jail? It alleged there was a whistleblower complaint alleged that the program grew assets of nearly $1.7 billion, partly by dumping healthcare and caregiving costs onto Medicaid, the state federal insurer for poverty-stricken and disabled Floridians. Under the settlement announced Monday by the U.S. Justice Department, NICA agreed to pay $51 million to resolve allegations that it violated the Federal False Claims Act. So let me get this straight. NICA was getting federal funds to disperse. Federal or state funds, maybe state funds. I'm not sure if were they getting federal funds too? It's a state organization. I don't know if they were getting federal funds, but I know they were getting state funds. So they're getting state funds to help the families of children injured at birth. And instead of using those funds, they, I don't know, squirreled them away somewhere or bought a couple of mansions. I'm not sure. And instead of using that money, they raided Medicaid. They billed it to Medicaid. That's Medicaid fraud. Why is no one in jail for this? I mean, this is outrageous. It's outrageous. Government abuse is what it is. So it looks like a U.S. attorney in Florida's Southern District went after them for this. NICA denied wrongdoing in the settlement agreement, of course, but you did wrong if you had to pay $51 million. Okay, so you can say you didn't do wrong all day long, but the state of Florida disagreed. NICA's reliance on Medicaid dollars frustrated and at times infuriated parents who depended on the program. Parents complained bitterly that they were forced to exhaust all efforts and appeals for Medicaid reimbursement, a process that could take months, if not years, before NICA would consider paying, even for such necessary items as wheelchairs and medication. Ugh. So look at what happens to these people. The executive director stepped down. The program's board of directors resigned en masse, and Florida legislature approved a massive overhaul. But none of those people went to jail. Why didn't they go to jail? I mean, what were they doing with the money? Were any of them personally audited to find out why they were raiding Medicaid instead of using the money they were given? Where'd that money go? Wow. I mean, it's awful what these families have to go through. I mean, they're already going through living with an injured child. And then you have this state agency that says, oh, well, we're going to help you. And then you get stuck in a morass, bogged down by that. It's absolutely awful. It's awful. And coming to the program now, it looks like Gregory Anderson is here, but I'm not seeing your camera, Greg. Is there a little button for you to put on your camera? Hi, Greg. Can you hear me okay? Okay, I don't think he can, and his camera's not on. So let me email. All right, we'll see if we can get this fixed real quick. Hey, Greg, can you hear me? Greg? Nope, still not working. All right, we'll get it worked out. All right, so when we get Greg's camera working, we will be talking, hopefully, about the Kushner case. I have a few questions for him about the Kowalski case, but I don't want to get too bogged down in that since we don't have that much time. I think I've got about 45 minutes with him. Hopefully we can get the camera worked out. Greg, can you hear me? Greg? Mr. Anderson, can you hear me? Well, this is unfortunate. He can't hear me. Oh, no. You guys, the chat. Oh, man. Well, this would happen. Well, I hope they get the message because he can't hear me. Yeah, let me see if I have a phone number. Yeah, I'll call. All right. 9. All right, hang on, guys. Okay, they're sending someone to help him. Wouldn't it be funny if he turned his camera on and it was a cat meme? Wouldn't that be hilarious? Okay, so we're trying to get Mr. Anderson on the program. It looks like they're working with his. I saw his camera flicker for a second, so it's probably.
Last time it just didn't work right.
Hello, can you hear me?
Okay.
Greg? Greg, can you hear me? Greg? Greg? They still can't hear. Oh, man. This is brutal. I wanted to test this yesterday, but you know, they're very busy. And I get it. Aha. Greg, can you hear me? There he is. Hi.
See if we can get me over here. There we go.
How are you today? Greg, can you hear me okay? Oh, he can't hear. He still can't hear. All right, hold on. Well, this is when a production crew would be really helpful. Hey, Jill, I can see him now. You can't hear me. Okay, Greg, can you hear me now? Greg, can you hear me? Can you see me? No? Okay, let me call again.
Again, how are you?
I'm good. I'm so sorry we're not hearing you on the video.
Let's see.
Oh, wait, I think I am. Hold on one second. Let me see. All right, say something.
Test 1, 2, 3, 4.
Oh, it's working. All right, great. I'm going to hang up the phone because we're good on the video.
Excellent. Okay.
All right, I'm so sorry about
Now I'm
that.
on.
Welcome so much. Welcome to the program. Thank you so much for being here.
Here I am. A, B, C, D, E, F, G.
Can you hear me okay? Oh, he can't hear me. I got to call back. All right. We'll just stay on the phone. Hi, it's Megan Fox again. Can you put me back through to Greg?
No problem, Mike. Please hold on, Megan.
Thank you.
Hi, Megan.
All right. Sorry about that. I'm just going to keep you on the phone because for some reason you can't hear me through the computer. So we'll just do this over the phone. Anyway, thank you so much for being here.
You're very welcome. Oh, hang on. It says my microphone is muted. Why would that be?
Oh, I did it. I muted it because you can't hear me. So I've got you on the phone and I've got your video on, but you're muted through the computer because otherwise you can't hear me. So I don't know what's going on, but we got it worked out now. So here's I've got so many questions for you, Greg. I don't want to keep you forever, but I don't want to get hung up too much on the Maya Kowalski case. But for one, congratulations on that case, on what a huge win. I think we all here at this program, we covered it every day. We feel like we've been through a war with you. I can't even imagine how you feel.
It has been. A war is a good way to describe it.
was simply the most overwhelming piece of litigation in my career, and that's going back 4 decades and a lot of interesting cases. But this one, what do you say? 52 summary judgment motions. We're at 3,600 docket entries, and your average medical malpractice case has what, 250 to 300? Yeah. And they're still at it. We're now trying to get our final judgment entered, and of course they're objecting to everything all the time. So we've got even more fun ahead of us.
So it's not really over for you. How are you feeling about the appeals process? Are they filing that immediately? Is that happening, or do you think there's a chance that they'll settle?
It's very interesting when you look at the numbers and the practicality of it. Megan, I don't know. Did you ever see the verdict form? Has anybody sent you a copy of that verdict form to see what it's like?
Yes.
It's 40 pages, and it asks individual questions as to each event. Each time Maya was battered, each time she was falsely imprisoned, everything that happened, there is a separate entry to say yes or no, was there battery, was there false imprisonment, and then the dollar amount of the damages, and then a check for yes or no, was it sufficient to warrant punitive damages. And the reason that that's important, it makes the case almost impossible to go back for a retrial, because if the appellate court agreed with any of their arguments, which we do not believe in any way, shape, or form it will, it's a matter of slicing off that one part of it. And this begs an even more interesting question, which is, with interest running at, at $22,000 a day, what is the cost-benefit analysis for the defense? If the appeal costs them $30 million in interest, what is it really? And I don't think it would be that much, but it would be, a lot of money. And the question is, would that be worth the amount that they could ever get in a remitter? And I don't think that there's going to be a remitter in this. So I feel very confident about it, and I'm confident not only in the factual, but also in the procedural aspect.
I got into a pretty heated discussion argument with a couple of attorneys who disagreed with your team about the fact that it's medical malpractice or not. I think it is. I think the standard has been met easily. But what would you say to people looking at this case and analyzing it and saying, no, everything else is right, false imprisonment, battery, that's all right, but it's not medical malpractice? What is the deal with attorneys who are so hesitant to say that what we saw is what we saw?
Well, I think it comes down to the wishy-washy way that Johns Hopkins portrayed Maya's diagnosis, and particularly beginning that October 7th date, which, if you heard my closing argument, was what I thought was pretty key here. Because remember, Maya had been in over 17 times. I don't know, she saw something like 54 different Johns Hopkins doctors. And once Dr. Kirkpatrick at the RSD Institute made the diagnosis of CRPS, everybody then went along with it. They were, it was, eureka moment by a lot of the physicians that had been treating Maya. Well, this is what it is. And it all made sense at that point until October 7th. And they went in, and like I said, something happened there, and you had a bunch of doctors who really had no idea what they were talking about. They had no experience with CRPS, had no experience with Maya's symptoms or treatments. And so they changed the diagnosis every place except a few places in the medical records. So I think that people were focusing and saying, they agreed it was CRPS. But in fact, everywhere else, they held it out to be conversion disorder. So the medical malpractice was taking a documented identification of this and diagnosis of CRPS, and then turning it into a psychosomatic condition, conversion disorder, and then, of course, Munchausen on the part of Beata. We were not allowed to proceed as to medical malpractice as to Beata, which brought up an interesting question. This was a pediatric hospital, and yet they were diagnosing an adult psychiatric condition. So there's, I think, sort of prima facie malpractice on that. But the court said, no, that's not what this case is about. It's about Maya. And so now what we had was the hospital coming out in every public record and accept parts of their internal medical records saying that this was conversion disorder. And it's all over it. So the medical malpractice is the misdiagnosis of CRPS as conversion disorder.
And also, one of the things you said during your closing arguments, and this was a more lighthearted moment, but you said at one point, the Shopkins thing drove you friggin' nuts. And that's
I love that
quote. I did too, because it drove us nuts here too. I don't know if you know this, but we were making memes about John Shopkins. We started calling them John Shopkins. Look, here's a meme brought to you by Pfizer and Hasbro. John Shopkins.
I loved it. I thought that was fantastic. Somebody showed me one of your memes there, and it was John Shopkins, all criminals,
all prisoners,
all prisoners hospital.
Here's another one. Here's another one.
Well, if you really being in the courtroom and having them parade these nurses in who claim to be the hand of Jesus. And,
literally the hands and feet of Jesus. Yes.
Literally the hand of Jesus. Well, hand of Jesus, could you please hand her the keys out of her cell and let her get out of there? They just really overdid it. And I was very serious about my refrain, I guess you'd call it, that they just don't get it. And they still don't. They just can't imagine that they did anything wrong here. But the Shopkins thing, that kind of summarized it all. We could do whatever we wanted to her, ruin her life, take her mother's life, and yet we did get her Shopkins.
To me, it was like, you don't know anything about this girl. All you can say is Shopkins. She liked Shopkins. But every kid that year loved Shopkins because it was the hot toy of the year. You could have said that about every single 10-year-old little girl. My kids were into it at the time as well. So it doesn't tell you anything about Maya Kowalski. That's what bothered me the most. It was just about some stupid thing they latched onto to pretend they knew her.
Right. And they never really took the time to get to know Maya, because this narrative started about her that you couldn't trust anything she said. And so remember, I refuse to believe that there wasn't a narrative going on at every shift change among the social workers and, Sally Smith, Kathy Beatty stayed there, the social worker. But as to the nurses, you just know everybody was saying, now that's the Munchausen kid, that's a conversion kid. Don't trust anything she says. She thinks she's in pain, but we think she can really walk. I mean, they said as much at different points in the record. And
yeah, we have a meme for them too. They're the Munchie Bunch.
Quack. I love it. You know what? That was brilliant. I'm going to have to go back and watch a lot of your shows. I did catch one of them, I think. I laughed at my rear end up. It was a point where I... That's right.
Doctor,
I just had dinner with Joe the other night. I'll tell him, he said, hey.
He's the greatest. He's Dr. Goodhair. He was great. He was a terrific witness, and the chat just loved him. The chat just thought he was fantastic. All right, so here's a question, and you mentioned it just a second ago, but after the jury verdict was found that JHACH was 100% liable on every claim, the defense went on television still claiming that Maya's a liar. How will they ever learn this lesson, Greg? Are they ever going to get it? And how many lawsuits will it take?
That's a very good question, Megan. I searched for that the whole trial. Generally speaking, there comes a point in a trial, and I do a lot more defense work than I do plaintiff's work. So there's a point in the trial when, if you're an experienced defense attorney, you realize that, or a plaintiff's attorney for that matter, but you realize that the case is not going your way. And although you have to go through the motions and you'll do your best as counsel, but it just, you know. And somehow these folks just kept drilling it into each other's heads that everything every one of our witnesses said was a lie, and everything that Maya said was a lie, and Jack and Kyle. All of our doctors were lying. All of the independent witnesses, which I don't know if you noticed or not, but we loaded up our case with independent witnesses. The people that didn't owe us anything, that didn't work for us, and we had no control over. We loaded our case with those because we thought it was important to the jury. And still they thought all of those folks lied. All the physical therapists, all the independent physicians. I don't know what it's going to take. I don't know what it's going to take. I'm hopeful that the appellate court, which has already seen this case once, I hope you know, I hope that if they do right, that they make some of the points here that need to be made about what happened, because it's just overwhelming that after all that they're still after the Kowalskis. Who does that?
It is overwhelming. Is it true that you've never done a medical malpractice case before?
Oh, I've done medical malpractice cases before. It's just that they were earlier in my career, and most of them were for the defense. See, I started out working for a medical malpractice defense attorney back in the 80s. And so I had a couple of second chairs there, and then I had one first chair, but this was like in 1988 or 89. And I hadn't done any really since then, at least as far as I can remember.
Wow.
Yeah, and getting back into it. But I was fortunate. I had a number of friends from different parts of my practice over the years that I could call up and say, hey, look, I'm getting back into this. What's the score now on this issue and that issue? And I managed, and we had, of course, with Nick there and Samantha, we had a real good team that, I knew enough about it to spot the basic issues and to get us down the right track. And I had enough good friends that were directing me to some of the nuances. But yeah.
Well, you nailed it.
I hadn't tried a medical malpractice case in probably 25 years.
Wow. Okay, well, I read the civil action that you filed against Sally Smith and Suncoast. I read that last night. It's beautiful, especially the part about the violations of the 1st, 4th, 5th, 6th, and 14th Amendments. These cases do not get filed or heard often enough, in my opinion. Now, that one settled. Is that right? They settled?
Right. We settled that one about a year and a half ago. Good defense counsel there, and Brian Haskell, and he recognized the problems with the case, and he was a vigorous advocate for his client, but he got it. He understood the underlying problems in trying to force this case to trial, and so we were able to work with him, which is diametrically the opposite of what was going on with defense counsel. And I've got some very strong opinions about how this case got to where it is, and I would encourage anybody who really wants to understand what happened to go and read some of those transcripts from the underlying shelter action. And
we're reading them on my channel. We've been reading through them like a dramatic reading on my channel. We're starting number 1 tomorrow night, but we already did the last one a couple of weeks ago in 2 parts, and we're going to go through every single one of them now that I have them all. So I appreciate that they were on the docket. I read a letter that you wrote to the Suncoast Council, and Greg, I can only hope that I can get an advocate as as savage as you one day if I should need it. Did they settle after you sent this letter? That the last line of it is so great. It says, the next settlement move will be dictated by the sounding of the buzzer that the jury has reached a verdict.
Little bit of hyperbole there, but yeah, that was the message I wanted to give. I don't know. I felt that, but to answer your specific question, that settled the case.
Yeah.
That settled the case.
And also, just so you people know,
get it done within a matter of a week or two.
just so you people know, Greg also attached a headline of his last huge win, $70 million that he got in a against GE. And that was attached to the letter. Like, if you don't believe me, check out this headline. I will crush you in court.
You know, it's very strange for me because there was no. I'm here in Jacksonville. I live in Ponte Vedra, but and I've been a member of the Jacksonville Bar now for coming on 40 years, and there's been no press or media up here. I am an unknown in my hometown, and to a certain extent in the Florida bar, because a lot of my verdicts have been Portland, Oregon, and Connecticut, California, a lot of places around. And one thing I found is that the segue is that I've had a hard time because of the size of our firm. You know, only 10, 11 lawyers, and because I do a lot of defense work, so I don't trumpet myself too much. I think that people come in and they grossly underestimate us, and they don't do any due diligence on their opponent, which is the first thing I do. If I've got a major case and I figure there's even a chance of it going to trial, or even if it's not, I will dig up as much information as I can on my opponent. I'll call lawyers that have tried cases against them. I'll find out what I'm dealing with here, because I don't understand how you can effectively prosecute or defend your case if you don't. And that rarely happens. I don't see that happen too much on the other side of me, at least thus far in my career. Maybe this case will change it.
Well, speaking of more cases, so we have been looking at the Kushnirs case. We've been looking at their story that was reported on USA Today, and I've read through the docket, at least as much of it as I can. The Kushnirs, of course, have had a very similar run-in with Dr. Sally Smith and JHACH, as well as other hospitals, where their son's birth trauma was they were accused of child abuse. Now, you've filed suit in 2021. It appears to me that the suit is now hung up because they are NICA, which I've explained to the audience. They know what NICA is. NICA is appealing the award that the Kushnirs were given. They qualified for NICA, and NICA says no, they don't want to give them the money. What the heck, Greg?
This is rich. So every doctor pays in to, every doctor that does this kind of work. In any event, a lot of doctors pay into this fund, which has got hundreds of millions of dollars there to compensate patients. And in our case, I thought the facts were just so clear, and it was another instance of Sally Smith absolutely misrepresenting things, and then people following along and listening to somebody who's not a radiologist in a radiology case and not a neurologist in a neurology issue. And I couldn't figure out what was going on in this. We won at the hearing level. Administrative law judge, I don't know if you read his order, which I thought, of course I won, but I thought his order was very well presented and brought in. It was an extensive order. I've got it here in front of me. What is it? It's like 37 pages citing to all of the facts. And I couldn't believe it when they said, well, we're going to appeal it. I said, appeal what? What? There's a finding here. The AJ judge has broad discretion, very broad discretion, and you don't have any facts to counter this. no, we just think that Williams' degree of impairment isn't enough.
Mm.
I said, isn't it enough? The kid's having trouble moving one of his legs and arms. Have you ever seen him run? I actually have a video. I mean, it's incredibly sad what happened to this little boy. And for them to come in and say, well, yes, there was neurological injury, but we just don't think it was enough of a neurological injury. I was like, what do you want? For him to just be laying in a bed drooling? Is that what's necessary for this? And that wasn't the standard either.
No.
So now these poor people have been going on. The reply brief was filed November 2nd, 2022. So it's been over a year since it's all been submitted to the first district. And, these poor folks, this all went on in 2018. So now here we are. They've had the hearing. They've been waiting for a year and a half. And if you go back to 2018, what is that now? 5 years for justice, like the Kowalskis. And it breaks my heart that they've had to go through all this. If they find, and they're also, I guess, attacking whether it qualifies under the statute. I guess if it doesn't, then our companion case filed in the circuit court but stayed, I guess that reactivates. So
what happens with the appeal now? Where does it go? Because it was in front of an administrative law judge. Where does the appeal go?
The appeal is pending before the First District Court of Appeals in Tallahassee, Florida. At least I think it's a Tallahassee.
About how long is that going to go on, do you think?
Well, I've had a lot of arguments before the first, because Jacksonville, the circuit court here is in the First District and Fourth Judicial Circuit. And it's been up before them. Like I said, the briefing closed on November 2nd, 2022. So here we are, a year following the last brief, the reply brief being filed. So it's been before the court for a year. We have not seen a notice of oral argument. We called over there last week. The judges are very busy. They're still trying to dig their way out of, to a certain extent, the COVID mess. And so we know how hard they're working, and we know that they're backload there. But boy, it sure is tough on the Kushnirs to be in this limbo. It's one of the unfortunate aspects of our system here.
So when I was going through the docket of the NICA filings and stuff, it seems that NICA was allowed to seal their response to your petition. Is there a reason why that is sealed and unavailable to the public? We can't see why they're appealing and what their argument is.
You got me. And you know what? I had forgotten about that, Megan. It's something I should look into. Florida, it's government of the sunshine, and
that's a government. Those are public funds. How dare they?
Exactly.
How dare they keep their reasoning for keeping public funds away from a family who qualified for them and sealing them? What kind of judge? I'm sorry, but what kind of judge seals that information from the public? I want that.
I encourage anyone that's interested. We would be holding, if it was a matter of HIPAA or confidentiality of young Williams' records, we're the ones that hold that privilege, and we haven't asserted it. So where's their basis? Where's their grounds for that? But let me say that is one aspect of the case I haven't looked at in a year. So I guess that's something I need to go back and check out, see if there's anything that can be done.
I would love that, because in order to report on it properly, I need to see what is NICA's explanation for why they're appealing, and it's totally sealed, which is interesting to me because none of your filings are sealed. So you're not hiding anything, but what are they hiding is the question.
Probably embarrassment. This whole NICA setup. Let me tell you what my concern is with all of these. In so many of these, and I think it's true in both of these cases, the defense counsel are effectively in charge of how far the litigation goes. And what's different if you have sophisticated insurance carriers with, senior VPs of claims who've seen it all, senior adjusters, they come to a point where they just say, no, that's it. Look, we're not going to continue to pay you however many hundreds of thousands of dollars a month or year, continuing this thing on. You told us you were going to win. You didn't win. Let's put this thing to bed. In these situations, there is nobody that's really in charge of this. And so when the defense counsel says, yeah, I know we lost, but we're going to get them this time, there's nobody standing back and saying, well, wait now, what basis do you have for asserting, yeah, we know you're going to replay the same arguments, and we know you think you can make them better, but you've had your day in court, we've had our day in court, and the plaintiff won. So why, again, are you telling us we should spend another, $1 million this next year with your firm to keep this thing up in the air? I don't. My defense clients never. I got to find some of these clients because my clients laughed at me, saying, "No, Anderson, no, we're not going to pay you for another chance."
Yeah, so that brings me to another question I had. We heard that there may have been a lot of personal sacrifice that it took to bring the Kowalski case to trial on your behalf. It seems like you're not going to get paid on that for a while until the appeals are exhausted or whatever they're going to do. And you've been fighting now for the Kushnirs since 2021 with no resolution. So how are you surviving under this massive financial burden of all these expenses of these cases that I know are very, they're costly? What motivates you to keep going, and how are you staying afloat?
Well, how I'm staying afloat is the love and support of my family and my partners, and particularly my partner, John Glenn, and our South Florida office. And I have to give a shout out to our clients as well, because this is a plaintiff case, and most of my clients are defense clients. And they were actually, they understand I don't take many of these cases, and I take cause cases for the most part. And they were like, go get them. You're not losing us. So that helped. I had I've got a good practice that way, and I've got partners who continue to keep the firm going. That was part of the story. The other part of the story was Jen and I have had to make some rather, it's very upsetting to me what my family's had to go through with this. Not only with us, without having Daddy around, and to a certain extent, with Jen being so involved, but we downsized our lifestyle. We had a home on the Intercoastal, which we loved, but it cost a lot of money to live there. And right at the peak of this, about 18 months ago, we decided we needed to downsize. So we sold our home. Now we did well with it, but we downsized considerably in our home. It's still very nice when we're in, but it's nothing like being on the Intercoastal. So the family's made incredible sacrifices, and I have to tell you that Megan, that there are a lot of times I think about it and wonder why did I ever take these cases?
I bet
there's got to be easier ways to make a buck,
Oh, well, it's not about that, obviously, because you don't sell your house and downsize and keep going. It's just so you can keep going if you were doing it for the money. And let's hope that some of that JHACH money comes through soon. After Kowalski and now Kushnir, do you think that this pattern of hospitals using DCF to report child abuse when there's conflicting information in the records is actually a method to avoid medical malpractice claims by shifting the blame of medical injuries to the parents by alleging this Munchausen or child abuse wherever the hospital may have misstepped or failed in some way?
I absolutely believe that. I think that particularly with Johns Hopkins, but I think that other hospitals in other parts of the state, and for all I know, in other parts of the country, are guilty of this. The way the statutory scheme is set up, there's no downside to picking up the phone and saying, I think there's something wrong here. And the upside is, if you've got some parents who are being what you perceive to be a problem, or disagreeing with you, or you just don't like them, it's awfully easy to just pick up the phone and all of a sudden that those parents' concerns are no longer with you, the hospital. They are with, how do I keep my kids? And most people do not have the resources to fight this. And as you know, the whole system is set up to be guilty until proven innocent.
Right.
And so one of the things you asked me why I kept going, Megan, it was that I still do. I don't know. I remember in one day I got like 31 different email, texts, and communications telling me I had to continue to do this for people that had had similar situations or knew of people in similar situations or were going through something like this. So it's a widespread problem. And until we do something about the legislation and make it not quite so easy for this to be used as a retaliatory measure, I think it'll still keep going on.
You know, I've been covering these stories for 20 years, and this case meant so much to me because it brought national attention to this problem that I haven't been able to get in 20 years, and people are now finally sitting up and paying attention to it. And it's like they're finally believing it, because it was too difficult to believe before that this kind of evil existed. Did you hear about Lehigh Valley in Pennsylvania? 70 families have come forward against one child abuse doctor who has falsely accused them of child abuse and Munchausen syndrome by proxy. 70 families, Greg. Sally has a lot more victims as well. I've been digging into some of her victims, and I read somewhere in your filings, I don't remember where now because I've just been buried in it, but I read somewhere that she only needs 3 actions against her to lose her license, her medical license. Well, we've got one now with Maya Kowalski. You've got a second one with the Kushnirs coming. Is there a third one?
I get contacted all the time about doing something. I've had a couple of dads who spent time in jail because of Sally Smith wrongfully accusing them. Just good, hardworking dads that had a dumb thing happen, no intent whatsoever to harm the child. The child was not really significantly harmed, and yet they found themselves fighting for their very lives and their freedom. So yes, there are those out there. The question is getting to them. Now, I'll say this. One of the things that the Kowalskis have committed to, and we will support as well, is they want to start a foundation. Should we prevail, they want to begin a foundation that provides for 2 things. One is the diagnosis and treatment of CRPS and funding that kind of research. And the second is a defense fund, and to give these families some resources to fight, because it's an unequal battle. You've got the hospital and the state on one side, and you've got average American families on the other. And until something is done to have the equivalent of a high-powered, specialized public defender, I guess, out there to help them, I don't know. I'm not very positive about the system changing. There's too much money to be made and too much benefit to the organizations for this to shut down.
That was something that you didn't really get into during the trial that I was really hoping was going to come out in the Kowalski trial, was how much money is Dr. Sally Smith paid and who pays her? And are there contracts between Suncoast and JHACH because it's like she takes kids from parents because she's justifying her own existence. She's justifying her job. she's contracted to do exactly what she did to the Kowalskis and to other families. And I don't see how monetizing taking children away from families is any kind of recipe for good things to happen. You monetize something, you're going to get more of it. Yeah. Did you find out anything there about what is the money trail?
Well, okay, so there are, and I don't know how many, I can just tell you in our case alone, there are 3 different subcontractors to the Department of Children and Family, and that do various tasks. Everything from finding ways to, or where to put kids, to shelter them, to monitoring the children while they were there, to identifying potential victims of child abuse. So you've got all of those folks who are making a buck, and then they tend to be, for instance, in Sally Smith's case, Suncoast, one of them that was a defendant and sued for a while. They were just merely a pass-through, in my view, for Sally Smith's contracting with the state. So Sally Smith was not contracting directly with the state of Florida. She was contracted through Suncoast to be the medical investigator for the child protection team, which is part of, again, on a contract basis, I think, the DCF, the State Department. The fact is, though, that at least in Dr. Smith's case, she also has a private practice, pediatric practice. And then what I could never figure out, Megan, and although Johns Hopkins is a 501c3 and we kept running into roadblocks trying to figure out how Sally Smith got compensated by Johns Hopkins for bringing these kids in as sort of a feeder system. You saw at trial that Johns Hopkins billed $650,000 after $539,000 was for, quote, treating CRPS, which they did not do. So for Johns Hopkins, that's a sizable chunk of change to motivate somebody to keep a child for 97 days and basically just have to sit there. So the question is, where's the quid pro quo? Now, we uncovered an honorarium, we uncovered some basic things, but we never could quite figure out why there was such a rabid pursuit of putting kids in this situation. And I think if you were to go and look at the contracts, I believe that it is based on a per capita. But again, don't quote me on that. I don't think it's just you're hired to do this job, and no matter how many or how few. I think there's some incentivization there.
Well, I do know that it's a federal law that there's money attached to each child taken that releases federal funds. And that state organizations go after those federal funds like their lives depend on it. And that's from the 1997 Adoption and Safe Families Act, which I think was one of the worst things to have happened to the child protection system. But do you have a little bit of time so I can read you some of the questions from the chat? There are a couple of them. Let's see. Some of them are just comments. Kaylee sent a super chat and said, Greg Anderson is the slayer of witches and destroyer of the John Shopkins dragon. It's funny, you guys. Yeah, Kidada Smith says, thank you, Anderson, for everything you've done. You're truly the best. And the statement, they still don't get it. We love you. Kaylee says, and I'm so tired of hearing about Shopkins. Dirty look towards defense. Loved it.
Whoever came up with the Shopkins stuff was that you? Megan?
It was my chat. It was the chat.
It was fabulous. It was fabulous.
They're so funny. Kudos to Mr. Anderson, says Legal Vices, and his hard work on Maya's case and other cases against JHACH, and kudos to Megan for her exemplary coverage of these cases. Well, I'll tell you what, this one is
Absolutely, Megan.
huge.
Back to
It's huge. We needed it. Everybody who's been involved in these cases, anyone who's covered these cases, and it doesn't get the attention that you want it to have, having a Netflix documentary and this huge publicized trial is just awesome. Duncan, Idaho says, Mr. Anderson, does the verdict against JHACH seem like a Band-Aid solution to a much larger problem to you? Is the realistic solution legislation or simply more persistent, relentless litigation as a check against institutions?
Well, that's a good question. I think 261 million is a pretty potent Band-Aid. I think that, like with many of the ongoing evils, whether it be, cigarettes or of the different areas where you're trying to get somebody making a buck to stop, I think it'll take more than one judgment. I think it'll take a number of them. And I also think that from the influx of litigation, that also brings to the attention of the legislators. Now, I have spoken with the governor, Governor DeSantis, about this. I had a chance to talk to him in person about 2 years ago. He's very much aware of this. And I know that he is working to try to change some of this legislation. So now that I have a little more time, maybe I'll see if I can do a little more that way.
Well, I was thinking that we were going to start a calling campaign to ask him to launch an investigation into Pinellas County. I don't know why there hasn't been a state investigation into that county to find out what the hell is going on over there and why they have 3 times the number of kids taken from parents than any place else.
I thought the exact same thing when I saw that statistic. There's a bar graph out there somewhere that I think Caitlin Keating found, the producer of Take Care of Maya. And I think it was on there, but one look at that bar graph and seeing the incredible number increase that Pinellas County and that district has over other parts of the state, regardless of population, is enough to, one would think, justify a state-level investigation. The other thing is, if federal funding is going towards something that is actually harming the citizens, one would think at the federal level, a legislator or hopefully maybe somebody with the appropriate bureaucracy would look into it, because that's not right to pay people to do to the Kowalskis and the Kushnirs what was done to them.
No, it isn't. LA says this victory meant so much for chronic pain patients and our families. We appreciate you and your family's hard work and sacrifice, along with the Kowalskis' courage. Thank you from the bottom of my heart. You're a hero to so many.
Thank you very much. I'm happy being a hero to my kids. Hopefully I am. I think I am. But I do very much appreciate all the support. I have to say, there were some dark days through the course of this case, and even through the trial, when all of the support I was receiving from different folks, it kept me going. So back at you. I appreciate it very much. It helped knowing there were so many folks out there cheering us on, and for the chronic pain sufferers out there, CRPS and otherwise, it is just such a horrific existence, and something that I don't know a lot of people know about, but I've actually got photographs of them here somewhere. But Maya, after a few weeks of this trial, started to get those terrible lesions on her ankles, and particularly right ankle, and we were completely freaked out about that, because I just, a relapse from this amount of stress and then having it ongoing was terrifying, and it can strike at any time. And for those folks out there, just stay with it, stay up with the treatments, Do your best. There are people out there that understand and believe you, and we'll help you when we can.
You know, your team appears to be one of the first teams in a high-profile case that seem to be leaning into the YouTube creators and granting interviews to channels that aren't mainstream press. First, I want to thank you because that's huge. But secondly, we watched Court TV and Law and Crime be hostile to Johnny Depp and to Maya. Are the days of, do you think, Court TV and mainstream press dominating the conversation coming to an end? Is the veneer of the mainstream press finally fading?
Yes, and I think that people have wised up about where and how to get information. I think that the YouTube shows, because you have so much more freedom, are being sought out by people who need to know and want to know what's going on. I also believed I was very upset at another hospital who shall remain nameless, and as well as a paper that came out with the paper that came out with some points that the defense had obviously provided them with, which had absolutely nothing to do with the facts and nothing to do with what was going on. And it was a hit job. And I actually saw one of the reporters who I'd given an interview to several days before, and I said, "No, I do for you, and this is what happens." So I don't think it was the reporter. I think it was the editorial board. But my question is, what is that editorial board doing sending out a hit piece like that with such a tragic case? And I think that kind of reporting, it makes you question where, I want to say where their heart is at. That's not the right way to put it, but where their mind is at.
Well, the same day, Greg, the same day that there was the big IJ bomb in the courtroom, the very same day, Court TV decided that their article was going to be about Maya's homecoming dress and accusing her of lying about her illness because she managed to go out with some friends. That was their story, and they never did report on the IJ report, Greg. Not once. What kind of media coverage is that? It's outrageous.
Why? On one hand, you could look at it and say, well, they're just looking for a story, a controversy. But isn't this a big enough controversy, telling it straight?
Yes.
Do you have to create more controversy here and attack, a 17-year-old girl? Maya was attacked through this entire period of time. From the time she's 9 on, she has been under constant attack by media, by the hospital, by defense lawyers. When is this kid finally able to live a life? To the extent, with what's happened to her, she can. It is. Do you know that the defense insisted on an order such that Maya had to report to the defense lawyers every time she went to any kind of doctor or dental or any other appointment.
Ugh.
This kid could not even go and get her teeth cleaned without having to report it. Think about that.
And she couldn't seek any therapy because then they would just get the therapy notes. So nothing she said was private. Nothing she ever talked about stayed between her and her therapist. And then they had the nerve to say, well, they don't really have PTSD because they're not seeking out help. Well, you're stalking them. So how could they possibly seek out help?
Jackie Henschke is a brilliant pediatric psychiatrist and Stanford trained, and she had no dog in this hunt. I met her completely apart from any of this, and she had just heard about the case, and I asked her to give a hand, and she was nice enough to agree. But our whole idea here was a safe harbor, to give Maya a safe harbor where she could talk and perhaps start a little bit on the path back to a semi-normal life. And I said, this is all part of the record. I know, Megan, you probably know all this, but I announced nothing that Maya says in here is going to be used. We agree that she will never be called as a witness. Maya needs a safe harbor. Give this kid one place she can go to talk, and that, of course, lasted about as long as it took to get a hearing and a motion filed and a hearing. And the next thing you know, Jackie Henschke's involved in it. And then they had the gall to object once they forced to turn over all the records and started going after Dr. Henschke. Then they got really mad when I said, well, fine, Dr. Henschke's going to testify.
That's
Dr.
sick.
Henschke had also documented what had happened to Maya that we talked about in the proffer. So be careful what you wish for. You will surely get it, right?
That's disgusting. The way the defense behaved is disgusting. And I don't mean to be crass, but we gave them a nickname here. We call them the Dick Defense. Because we hated the way that they behaved. They were horrible the whole time. And by the way, if it does come up in appeal and you need some photographic evidence that the DCF and JHACH threw Jesus and chocolate cake in the trash, I have it. We have investigative evidence here.
Can I supplement a brief with that?
Yeah, I thought you might be able to. That might come in handy.
Finally found proof, judges. That is fabulous.
I think that angered the audience more than anything, that they took this child's consecrated host and threw it in the dumpster along with her chocolate cake. For what purpose other than torturing a kid do you do this?
Why would you do that? What was the thought process that that somehow the Kowalskis were going to find an illegal source of ketamine and then bake it into cookies and bake it in union wafers, adulterate the holy water, and then find a way to sneak it in?
It's absurd. Not to mention, I don't know if you're Catholic or not, but it's an automatic excommunication if you were to desecrate a host like that with ketamine. So Beata would know that. She would know that if she put anything on a consecrated host, it's an automatic excommunication. She would never have done that. She was a devout Catholic.
Of course. And the thought processes that looking for the right term here, but the internal psychosis that developed amongst these people involved at Johns Hopkins and the DCF folks right there with them, Sally Smith, there was never, as far as I could tell, there was never anyone who came in and said, wait a second. No, we're not going to allege that they're putting ketamine in muffins and sending them in with 10-year-olds. No, we're not going to pin down a kid and strip them. There just seemed to be absolutely nobody at home to run this thing. No captain of this ship. It was astounding to me. And then you think, and these people are taking care of people's kids. I mean, not just Maya, but
yeah,
bad news.
Very bad news. Greg, thank you so much for being with me today. I know you had just about an hour and we're about done. So I just want to say thank you so much for coming on this channel. I know we're just a small channel, but this audience really are your people. They've been behind Maya this entire time. We have been for her. We've been trying to get the word out. And just please tell her that we love her and we believe her. We believe her 100%. Please tell her.
Absolutely. And Megan, and to all of your viewers, thank you so much. The Kowalskis are so much aware of the support here, and they wanted me to pass along how much they appreciate it. And, great job on covering it. Just great job.
Wonderful. Well, please, let's keep in touch about the Kushnir case, because I would like to keep up on that and follow it and report on it. And thank you for your time today, Greg. I appreciate it, and have a great rest of your day taking it to the enemy. I know you're working hard.
I'll do my best.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
All right, you guys. My camera apparently is taking a dive right now. Hold on one second. I'll be right back. All right. Hopefully that'll fix it. Man, that was driving me crazy while that was happening. Of course it would happen to me. But, I'm still working out the kinks of what's going on with I think it's StreamYard that is doing that when the system gets overloaded. But man, what a great guy. What a great interview. I'm so happy he came on the program today, even despite the technical difficulties. We got it worked out. And I do have, I forgot to ask one question that I really wanted to ask, so I'll email it to him later. I really wanted to ask him about the text messages from Dr. Vos. I wanted to know if he had any other text messages that he didn't use in the trial that could give us any more information about the other family that Dr. Vos said had a similar outcome. And that's why she knew that Beata was going to do what she did. So I'm so glad that you guys were here today. Oh, it looks like it got rid of some super chats for me. Well, thanks a lot. Thanks a heap, StreamYard. Hold on. I missed some super chats. Let me go back over to YouTube Studio. StreamYard cleared out all the super chats when I did the refresh. That's unfortunate. I know I missed a couple, you guys. I'm really sorry. I'm going to try to get into the studio and get those right now. I had to close out as much as I could because I was worried about the camera. All right. So what did I miss? Okay. The only Latina says, love Anderson. Whitney taking a sip of his water as Hunter was being asked by the judge to help him understand if the hospital was under immediate jeopardy was amazing. Hunter deserved every bit of that. That seems to be as far back as I can go on the chat, unfortunately. If I missed your super chat before that, I'm sorry. It was the refresh. Sarah Adams sent a super chat, says, great interview, Megan. Thank you very much, Sarah. And I had to close locals as well. So let me pull that back open so I can see you guys in the locals chat. If you're not on locals, you need to be over there. You need to follow me there. It doesn't cost anything to follow me and turn on notifications. And that way it's meganfox.locals.com. And that way you'll get all the notifications for when I'm going live for more exciting stuff. Now, one thing Greg talked about, here we go. I got locals back open. One thing that Greg talked about was a story about a man who went to jail for 20 years. Let's talk about that. His name is Jim Duncan. I recently got his appeal in my inbox. One of you lovely people sent it to me. Jim Duncan, in fact, let's read it because it's not very long. But this is a case that I'm going to be looking into. Jim Duncan, who was also accused falsely of child abuse by Sally Smith. Now, he went to prison for 70 years was his sentence, you guys. 70 years. Can you imagine and his son, the child who supposedly was abused, does not believe that there was any abuse. And this man is still in prison, you guys. He's still in jail. And this is, he was on CNN a couple of years ago, but nothing really came of it. I've contacted his attorneys to find out what's happening with the, hang on, I have to share a different window. No, cancel that. I have to open it in, how do I do this? I'm still getting used to Windows. File manager? Yeah, that'll do it. I'm still getting, I have an entire file now on Sally Smith's different victims, and the files are starting to build up. All right, here we go. Here is the appeal. for Jim Duncan. Your browser has blocked your screen. What? Click the screen icon. What? Can you not see me anymore? Why would my browser have blocked my screen? Never mind. All right, hold on. Well, that was a really fun interview. I love good lawyers so much. All right, let's see if I can share this now. I'm trying to find out what happened with this appeal. It was filed in 2020, I think 2020. Appellant's motion to relinquish jurisdiction to the circuit court for further proceedings. Wait, is this the right one? Yeah, Mr. Duncan's case is on appeal from an order denying his motion on newly discovered evidence after an evidentiary hearing. Specifically, Mr. Duncan was convicted of multiple counts of child abuse based on multiple fractures unaccompanied by any bruising or ancillary injuries of his infant son. Mr. Duncan asserted new evidence in the form of a new peer-reviewed article discrediting the theory relied on at trial, along with a full review of the evidence in this matter by the primary authors. Instead of the fractures at issue being specific to child abuse as claimed at trial, the fractures were now found to indicate a metabolic bone disorder. The evidence was entirely circumstantial, and Mr. Duncan has maintained his innocence for 25 years. The undersigned attorneys represent the defendant on a pro bono basis based on their strong belief in his actual innocence. In denying Mr. Duncan's motion, the circuit court relied on the testimony of state's witness Dr. Sally Smith. Dr. Smith testified at both the initial trial and the evidentiary hearing on the defendant's motion on newly discovered evidence. At the evidentiary hearing, Dr. Smith testified that she was not aware of making a mistake in a child abuse diagnosis. Yeah, because she never makes mistakes. Unrelated to Mr. Duncan's claim, a recent in-depth investigation by USA Today, which we read yesterday, unearthed multiple instances in which Dr. Sally Smith was indeed wrong. See attached Exhibit A. The families profiled in this article were unknown to the defendant at the time of the hearing. The families were not disclosed by the state, and the identities of the individuals were not readily discoverable by the defendant, Dr. Smith. Dr. Smith was directly questioned on this issue, and she was not forthcoming at the evidentiary hearing. It is imperative to the fair administration of justice that the record in this manner include the testimony of multiple families that Dr. Smith was aggressive, hasty, and wrong in her diagnosis of child abuse on multiple occasions. This testimony is admissible as reverse Williams rule testimony pursuant to Florida Statute 90.404b and essential to a fair determination of Dr. Smith's credibility. Similar fact evidence may be introduced by defendants if the evidence tends in any way to establish a reasonable doubt of the defendant's guilt. Here, evidence regarding Dr. Smith's conduct with regards to other families and her incorrect diagnosis of child abuse is relevant to her modus operandi and her credibility. If Dr. Smith was found to have lacked credibility, that finding would support a reasonable doubt regarding Mr. Duncan's guilt in this case and could result in the trial court reversing its decision to deny Mr. Duncan's motion for post-conviction relief. Pursuant to Rule 9.600b, Florida Rules of Appellate Procedure, an appellate court may relinquish jurisdiction to the lower tribunal to address specifically stated matters during the pendency of the appeal. Subsequent to the hearing, a second peer-reviewed article on the exact issue of metabolic bone disease and contested child abuse was published in the Journal of Pediatric Endocrinology and Metabolism, authorized the defense experts. This article further supports the reliability and credibility of the scientific opinion relied on by Mr. Duncan's experts and is necessary to a full and fair determination of Mr. Duncan's claim of newly discovered evidence and must be included in the analysis. You guys, I just want to point out, Mr. Duncan has been sitting in jail for 20 years. 20 years. He's still there because of Sally Smith. Relinquishment of jurisdiction is necessary and appropriate in this case so that the trial court can address the credibility of Dr. Smith based on all the available evidence. I mean, every single case she's been involved in should be overturned, should be brought back to trial or dismissed based on what she has done in other cases. I mean, this is insane. But I guess his appeal was denied, and this is yet another attempt to have that court relinquish jurisdiction. I mean, so I reached out to his attorney, Elizabeth Fryer, and I'm hoping to hear from her so that I can get more of the details on that case. But Dr. Sally Smith has to be stopped. Thank you all for showing up today, by the way. There are 1,700 of you here. Please make sure you hit that like button and subscribe if you're interested in this type of coverage of this case and other cases. Let me see if I can get caught up on some of your chats right now. Just reading through the chat. I was happy I got to show him the dumpster Jesus meme. I was looking for an in to do that. Let's see. Sessrin's fan club, thanks for the super chat, says here in Roanoke, Virginia, our major hospital in the Blue Ridge area CEO is married to a judge that rules cases like this, and no lawyer will stand up to him. Carillon Clinic Hospital can never be sued. Well, that's ridiculous. There's a lot of institutional corruption, you guys. A lot. Horse Welfare says, Mr. Anderson, words cannot express my appreciation to you, your family, and the Kowalski family for having the courage to take this case to trial. You know, if Greg does go back and watch my coverage, I should have told him, I should have given him a preemptive apology because the first couple of days, do you remember? I was like, oh, I hate this guy. Why can't he spit it out? Why is he shuffling with papers? Do you remember? But it didn't take long, Greg. It didn't take long for us to fall in love with you. And we were all very sorry that we didn't trust you. I should have told him. If you're going to watch my coverage, I didn't mean any of it. I was in a state of panic. I totally did. I'll have to send him a preemptive apology. Well, hopefully he won't stop watching after I criticized him. Because it gets better. Lacey Ann said, I knew Anderson had a strategy from the beginning. Yeah, at least one of you called him Columbo right from the start. Flux says, yeah, I forgot we didn't like him at first. Well, we were trying to like him, but we were so nervous that his delivery was going to mess up the case. But yeah, that was not the case. But I thought that watching him move through the different stages where we were like, we don't understand this strategy, we don't understand what he's doing, to then, oh my God, this guy's a beast. I mean, he's an absolute beast, especially on cross. I mean, how fantastic is Anderson on cross? Laura says, I left mean comments about him. Well, look, we're all forgiven for the things we said when we were very high anxiety, and just we were all wishing the best for Maya, and we were worried that Anderson was going to get rolled by the defense, you know? And so I think we're all forgiven for not knowing him. Like he said, he's unknown, even in his own town. So we're forgiven for not knowing how he operates and for seeing it, you know, and watching how it went and how it unfolded and changing our minds. Oh yeah, you definitely do need to go back and watch from the start. Speaking of, I have a Maya Kowalski playlist that you can go and see all of them. They're all there in order of, the days and on YouTube. So you can go and look at the playlist that says Maya Kowalski. And that way you can rewatch the entire trial. KBF says, I'm an attorney who has handled 2 CPS cases where the child had brittle bone syndrome. Child abuse specialist said it was abuse. Both cases got dismissed once real doctors got involved. CAPs are quacks. Child abuse pediatricians are quacks. Yeah, I totally agree. They are. They are. Can I turn off chat? Why would I do that? Why would I do that? The chat is part of the show. All right, let me make sure I didn't miss any more over here. All right. Well, that was a really terrific show. That was really fun. What a great surprise. And I've got a lot more research to do. I actually want to write this up. I want to write up some of this interview with Greg for pjmedia.com. And I'm also going to make some clips to upload to the channel for other people to watch. I'm sorry that my camera had some kind of issue in the middle of it and it was freezing and stuff, but at least we got it done. We were able to do it. So I'm thrilled that you've all been here. To those of you who are new and you haven't seen all of the memes, I saw a bunch of you who were like, I should watch this coverage. I didn't see these memes. Oh, we had so many. Do you remember Dr. Perno? Dr. Perno made the famous how you know your dog got caught in a sex scandal face. Dr. Perno was the administrator who was sure it was not his job. And then we had the demon come out on the stand with the one who threw Jesus in the trash. Her face kept morphing into some demonic thing. And this was Jack's face after her testimony. Jack was so happy after we found out that she threw Jesus and cake in the dumpster. And the jury took that just about as well as we did, which means to say not well at all. And then, of course, there was the Your Honor, permission to bring in the duck, because everybody JHACH put on the stand appeared to be a witch of some kind in the 7th floor coven. And we had a lot of fun with the memes. And of course, who could forget Judge Carroll and the double finger guns? Whenever he was denying something vociferously, the double finger guns would come out. Defense witness Anderson also made the same face as Perno and the dog. And I think the police officer also made that face. And I still haven't put it on the meme, but I have a screenshot of it somewhere. And of course, Dr. Malik as Jafar. We will never forget that brilliance that happened in the locals. And of course, John Shopkins All Children's Hospital, brought to you by Pfizer and Hasbro. John Shopkins All Prisoners Hospital, where they kidnap little kids and for absolutely no reason whatsoever and hold them falsely and batter them. It's a terrible place, run by the Munchie Bunch in the 7th floor coven. We've had a lot of fun. And then, of course, there was Dr. Corcoran. Who could forget him? Who could forget Dr. Corcoran riding in on the Victory Llama to save the day? And then we have this one. A child with CRPS JHACH doctors. Absolutely terrible. And the Yacht Father. I forgot about the Yacht Father. If John Shopkins was a boat. We did have a lot of fun during this trial. And if you missed my coverage, you can go back and look on the playlist under Maya Kowalski, and you will find the coverage. You can rewatch it at your leisure and catch up on all the memes. There were so many memes. There's more memes than that didn't even make it in my meme collection. And that somebody has been stockpiling on Locals, I think. meganfox.locals.com. Please do follow me over there. It's free to follow, but if you do want to subscribe, and we did things like we watched the Take Care of Maya documentary together. We watch movies together. We do cooking streams together. I'm actually thinking about doing a sip and paint together. Would you guys like to do that? Where we drink some wine and paint something together? Wouldn't that be fun? That would be fun. Let's do that. I'm going to have to I'm going to have to set that up. So get over there to meganfox.locals.com. Is it possible to show Thug Judge? I love that clip. Well, why, yes, it is. I believe I still have it in StreamYard. Let me see. Where's Thug Judge? Where are you, Judge Carol? Aha.
I understand you're moving for a mistrial when you got additional time and you can call the same witnesses to address whatever issues. Is that what you're saying?
Yes, Your Honor. Because
okay. Can we go to exhibits, please?
Double finger guns, Judge Carroll. We love Judge Carroll. And now he has recused himself off the Kushnir case. It appears that one of his relatives may be a witness in the case. So if it is televised at some point, we will not have the pleasure of Judge Carroll, unfortunately. What else do we have here? Meg, can you please recap the Locals discount code? Sure. If you want to sign up for a year, use discount code SQUATS, all caps, and you'll get 2 free months. If you want to sign up just as a monthly basis, it's $5 a month. Use the promo code MAYA, all caps, MAYA, and you'll get a free month on me. And that's meganfox.locals.com. Haley wants to know, how's your sister doing, Megan? Have you canceled Thanksgiving? No, we have not. She took a COVID test. It was negative, and she has not gotten any worse symptoms. So we're going to risk it. And I'm sure I'm going to regret that later. But literally, I have nothing in the refrigerator. She's supposed to be buying all that. So what am I going to do if I'd have to go to the grocery store like today and buy a fresh turkey or something? Like, no, we're going to risk it. James Shart says, do you need miniatures? I can send minis. Well, thanks for the offer. Hare Island doesn't get round 2, unfortunately. Yeah, we're going to miss Doctor. We're going to miss Judge Carroll, and hopefully we'll get to see him again. But don't worry, Florida's a crazy place, and something is bound to happen that Judge Carroll will be in charge of that will probably end up on court TV. They don't call it Florida Man Friday for nothing. All right, let's see. All right, so I'm going to get going, and you guys follow me on Locals, meganfox.locals.com. I'll probably be doing an exclusive live over there today for local subs to just kind of decompress after this interview and just chat with the people over there about what they thought about it. I may even do a call-in show over there. That would be fun. So I'm thinking about that. I don't know. Maybe I should do a call-in show now. You guys want to call in? Do you have anything you want to talk about? Do you feel like commenting on that interview? Should I open the phones, or are you guys done for the day? Dun dun dun. Yeah, we got some yeses. We got some. All right. Well, we'll take a couple. How about we take a couple calls? Let me get the thing open. I got to get Google Voice open. Now remember, I can only take one call at a time. So if I'm on the phone, you can't call. You have to wait till I hang up, and then you can call back. All right. Allow. Let's get over here. Share. All right. Okay. All right. I'm going to put the number at the bottom of the screen, and then you guys can call in if you have anything you want to talk about regarding this interview today or whatever. The number is 617-8585-FOX. Geez, that was fast. Allow.
Call from
Crazy Warlock.
Hey, Crazy Warlock, how you doing?
Hey, how's it going, Megan?
Good. How are you?
Keeping Keeping on. I don't know.
So what'd you think of the interview today?
I went all right, except for, the camera and the other technical issues, but, that's just how it is. That's what we've come to expect on this channel. So,
You've come to expect bad tech on this channel. Well, blame IT Goatee Brad. IT Goatee Brad is, he's been working really hard trying to get this all worked out. I'm starting to believe that the camera issue is StreamYard getting overloaded or something. And I've got, apparently, and this is kind of exciting, but Rumble is supposed to be getting me the beta testing into their new studio. So that should be happening soon, and hopefully it won't happen there, I guess. I don't know.
Well, hopefully, yeah.
Hopefully. What else can I help you with
fingers
today?
crossed. What's that?
What else can I help you with today?
Oh, not much. I don't just...
Sushi Ninja says medium quality technology. So funny. So funny.
Everything around here is medium, so yeah.
I know. I wish it had been HD quality, but what do you do? All right. I hear another call coming in. Thank you for calling, Crazy Warlock. Appreciate you.
All right, no problem.
Call from Purple.
Hey, Purple. Welcome to the program. How are you?
Hi. That was a really good interview.
Thank you.
So what do you think about looking into more like dependency court hearings and reading that?
I have all of the dependency hearings from the Kowalski case. We're starting tomorrow at 11 a.m. We'll be reading the first dependency hearing, so the shelter hearing on the Maya Kowalski case. We'll be reading through that as a dramatic reading tomorrow at 11 a.m. We have all of them. So that's what we'll be doing starting tomorrow.
Awesome. Obviously, I've made comments about my son. He's been in foster care for a year.
Oh, I'm sorry.
The social worker, she claimed medical neglect because he was not on a certain medication. He's still not on it. So I started recording the family court judge, and because she never asked questions, and she literally said, "I'm not going to look through his medical records."
That doesn't make
in my
any
opinion,
sense.
what it all comes down to.
So they took him from you for not having him on a certain medication, and they still haven't put him on the medication?
Okay, well, I'm going to have to backtrack. Do you want to know how? I'll go back to where it all started. A doctor in the ER, I reported him for denying my son medical care for constipation. It's part of anybody that has low muscle tone. It's part of the disease. And so he reported me. So it started there. Well, my son has psych issues. It's part of the syndrome. There was no school. He's a teenager with a disorder. So I took him to Children's for psych, and they discharged him. Well, we left. He jumped out of the car into traffic. The cops brought him back. They discharged him again. I had one conversation with the social worker that day in May of last year. One. She accused me of refusing to pick him up from the hospital. I'm not going to be concerned about that. Who would, right? So a month later, he's in summer camp in his third week. That social worker I never met, only talked to one time, went and took him from camp and didn't call me till after she had him.
Jeez.
And then they kind of built the case after that. Like, Prader-Willi syndrome is so complicated. And all they kept talking about was this one medication. Well, now he's over 400 pounds. He's in respiratory distress. He's been in hospital with constipation multiple times. Not respiratory distress, respiratory failure. These social workers, they don't answer the phone. It's just unbelievable. But when they accused me of medical neglect for that medication, and then they said that I demand unnecessary programs and procedures, which goes back to the doctor that originally said it was my fault he was constipated, and I was demanding unnecessary care, right? See how it comes back to the beginning there? Well, he ended up being admitted a couple of days after that event anyway for constipation. So now this trial totally makes sense to me about why they were using that angle. Well, then they took 3/4 of my income, and my house went into foreclosure. And I had to prove that I could provide stable housing. Mind you, they've moved him 6 times.
Jeez.
He's not moved 6 times his entire life. They've undid the IEP. They've undid his primary care doctor. They ignored the doctors in Texas. They ignored everybody.
It seems like when the court system gets involved in medical decisions, they don't necessarily do the right thing. They're not doing any better than the parents were doing on complex medical cases. This is the whole problem. This is what we're seeing in these cases. Thank you so much for calling, Purple. I appreciate it. And I hope that your situation with your son resolves in a positive way. Thanks for calling.
Well, no, it will. Yeah, because I mean, in my world, we kind of had this idea. It just couldn't put your finger on it. So the case really helped expose these medical abuse doctors.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, thank you.
Thank you very much. Take care.
Great show. All right.
This is the thing. Courts and judges, I don't think, have the right to make medical decisions. This is not the purview of the court. It is not the court's role, and it should not be left up to a court to make medical decisions.
Call from Roman 80cc.
Hi, Roman. How you doing? Welcome to the show.
Hey, how's it going?
Good. I think it's going well.
Awesome. The reason for my call is I just have been watching. Sorry, I'm turning it off. I'm done watching you on here. I got to turn it down. I've been following you for quite some time, and as a nurse, a children's nurse, I just find it interesting that it's all over in different hospitals. And so I just want to give you kudos for your good job.
Oh, thank you. I appreciate that. As a nurse, what was it like watching? And you're a children's nurse, you said? You work in a children's?
I did work at a children's hospital for some time, and it seemed that it seems to be the same, where you've got hospitals that bring in new doctors, like brand new doctors, and they all have the same view that they know more than you do, whether you've been a nurse for 20 years or the patient knows and the family knows about it. They know more. And it was the same thing with with the nurses saying, oh, I've done so much for these patients, kind of like I brought the Shopkins.
What was your read on the nurses in the Kowalski case? Have you ever heard of nurses in a children's hospital wearing black scrubs either? That was a weird thing to me.
That was weird. We would always wear, the happy little character uniform, character scrubs.
Mm-hmm.
But I do see now that a lot of hospitals are moving to more uniform, blank colored scrubs. Like when I was getting ready to leave the hospital I worked at, they were moving to solid colors supplied by the hospital. And I don't know I just don't know what the thought process is there. You want to make it fun for the kids. I mean, they're being in a hospital. You're doing things they don't want you to do. You're trying to make them as happy as possible and to bring them down with different colors and just blanding it, blanding it down, I guess. Sorry.
Strange. Well, have you ever seen this before in the hospital where you worked, where the staff, maybe the nursing staff, kind of got their story straight, on a difficult case, or played the CYA game that the Munchie Bunch appeared to be playing?
Absolutely. A lot of the stuff I would see, even when you talked about like the nicknames, they all had them, whether it was, this kid, the cancer kid in this room, or the fake seizure kid in this room, everyone had names, whether they want to admit it or deny it. There was always some kind of name. And they all talked about each other's patients. Doctors all talked about each other's patients. I mean, they made it sound like, oh, I never talked outside of this. It was always discussion, especially when there was something that was abnormal or
it's human
people
nature, right?
it.
It's human nature to tell stories and to talk about what you're involved in, especially with your coworkers. What else are you going to talk about? So it was completely unbelievable that none of them were talking about Maya's case, and that they kept on saying they weren't, but we all knew that wasn't true. So
exactly.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much for calling in. I appreciate it.
No, I appreciate you taking my call. You're doing a great job. I think you're amazing.
Thank you. Thanks for being a listener. Take care.
You're welcome.
All right, everybody, let's see. I'll probably take one or two more, and then I'm going to call it a day. So 617-858-5369, 617-8585 Fox. You can call in now, and we will have a conversation.
Call from.
Hi, my name is Mac.
Welcome to the show.
Hey, Megan, how are you?
Good. How are you?
I'm doing good. I just want to call out Squid for thinking her voice and accent is too ridiculous to call in herself.
Squid Pro Crow wants to call in, and she hasn't called in?
No.
Squid, you can call in anytime. No one will make fun of your voice. I promise.
Not at all. But yeah, I just wanted to say good interview. You did great.
Oh, thank you.
And despite everything. And there was a good trial to partake in meme the shit out of.
Yes, it was. The memes were epic. May the memes always be plentiful. Thanks so much for calling in.
Thank you. Have a good one.
You too. Squid Pro Quo. If you want to call me, you should pick up the phone and do it. I would love to hear from you, and no one's going to make fun of your voice. Pale Rogue says, I called in before and I hate my voice. I used to hate my voice too. And then Slidey Pie says, we can't make that promise. You mean about making fun? That's true. I can't make promises for the chat. I know I will not do it. I will not. The phone lines are open. 617-8585 Fox. Okay, let's see. Call in. Now's your last chance before I get out of here and go to locals. MeganFox.locals.com. We're going to continue this conversation over there for my subscribers. We're going to have a little private chat, and it's going to be fun.
Call from Christy.
Christy, welcome to the show.
Hey, I have just got to say, I'm did not plan this, off the cuff. I do not even watch regular news anymore. My family thinks I am completely insane, but the way you cover things, I've kind of bounced around from different streamers, and it's just amazing that you are, what do you say, you're not tongue-tied, you don't struggle for words. I've actually learned a few vocabulary words from you. I'm also in on the hair conversations and the memes. I mean, it's just got everything, and you have a way of covering something so thoroughly, and you don't, what is the word I'm looking for? You don't restrain yourself. You just kind of say it the way it is, which I completely appreciate.
That's a big problem for me. I've had that problem for a long time.
Same.
I know my parents would like it if I restrained myself sometimes.
My kids are usually hiding, in another room, or they're just always afraid of what's going to come out of my mouth. But I just really love your coverage. It's really amazing. And my boyfriend is always like, well, I'm watching the news. They don't see me as watching the news. They think this is entertainment. And it's really, I just prefer it now. The angles are better. You can bounce around and we get a deeper dive into things instead of the surface level info. The way you get interviews, that was such a good bet, girl. I am so stoked for you.
I know. I'm still in, quaking on the inside. That was great. And what was funny is that I just reached out to his wife yesterday, and that all happened since yesterday. On a Sunday, they set that up.
Oh, so you haven't even processed this yet.
No. And
I wasn't planned. I turned it on. I caught the live last minute, and he was on there, and I'm like, surely I missed this. Did this already happen? And it was live, and I'm trying to get kids out the door, but this is my priority. They don't understand.
Yeah, I mean, and I'm really shocked too that Greg and Nick Whitney and like the whole team, his wife, the paralegals, they've all been really leaning into the YouTube creators instead of, massive
Which
media.
validates us,
Yeah,
right?
well,
It
yeah,
validates that we are the mainstream. We are the people, and we're not just those that are in suits in the courtrooms. We are the people that they are trying to explain these things to. We're the layman people, and I have such a greater knowledge of this topic I had no idea of.
Yeah, I mean, they went on the bigger shows, like they went on Fox and they went on some of the bigger shows. But really, if you want to reach where the people are, they're on YouTube. This is where the people are. This is where we are watching so much more closely than any of the mainstream press watched this trial. None of them watched it. You know that Julie at Court TV, that twat waffle over there, didn't watch. She didn't watch even 5 hours total. I guarantee you.
No, they get side notes. Yeah, they get little, 2x2 pieces of Post-its sent to them, and then they just read off of that and build on it. They just make it up as they go, I feel like.
Yeah, I mean, they're just being given notes, to read by a producer. And they're not informed. We saw it in the Johnny Depp trial with what's her name at NBC, that awful Kat Tenbarge, who was, going after LawTube and saying that we were all just making money. And it's like, well, what do you think Law and Crime is doing? What do you think Court TV does? They are making hand over fist more money. Yeah, what's NBC doing? They're making so much more money.
Look, everybody has to make money. That's America. That's how we live. But it's the way you make it. Let's maybe look at it that way. You're being monetized, but you're also, and I also find, a side note is that I also find when you get these interviews versus the Today Show or GMA or whatever, they are buttoned up. They are on their best behavior. That's when the principal is watching, right?
Yeah.
And then when you get them, it's laid back. It's a real conversation, which I thoroughly enjoy. I just prefer it.
Yeah, I do too. And I also feel like I'm glad they feel comfortable. I'm glad like Dr. Corcoran was here and now Greg Anderson's been here. And just what a great guy. I could have talked to him for 2 more hours. I just didn't want to take up his entire day.
I know. I hear you going, well, you only had an hour. So I
have longer than that. I started to feel bad. Hope to do it again. He was him and Dr. Corcoran, great interviews. I mean, just great
for sure.
I mean, I definitely agree with what you're saying. It's like those. Also, the network interviews are always edited, always.
Yeah,
and they will edit out stuff you wanted to hear. You wanted to hear it, but they didn't want you to hear it, and so it's gone. It's on the cutting room floor, never to be seen again. Which is why I only do live interviews. When someone wants to interview me, I never agree to edit. Well, very rarely do I agree to edited interviews because I don't like what they do on the editing floor. And I just think live is so much better and you get so much more out of it to just let them go, to just let him talk,
Completely agree. We can look up on like Daily Mail. I love Daily Mail. I'm not going to lie. I do. And I look at the headlines and that's what those interviews are the headlines, I feel like. And then we get the backstory of how they really think, how they got to the decisions they got to, why they made the moves they did. And it kind of validates when we see things and we're like, did they not notice that? How did that slide? Bring that up. And then you interview them and they were fully aware of it and they maneuvered with that information. It validates that we are on the same track, if that makes sense.
Right.
And
I wish that Johnny Depp's lawyers,
I
wish Johnny Depp's lawyers had talked to some of the LawTubers and, been interviewed by people on YouTube that supported Johnny and watched the trial. Because I
bet they will now.
I hope so. I hope that the dam broke now with Greg Anderson doing what he's doing. I think he's showing other attorneys, you don't have to be afraid of YouTube creators. You can go and talk to them. It's just
100%.
Just like talking to any radio show or local radio show or whatever. It's the same thing.
100%. And I think that maybe the networks are seeing this. They can't fight it. They might try to by putting it down, not liking your show, whatever they do, but they're fearful. They have to be. Things are changing and they're losing control. So, they're going to They're going to have little tantrums here and there, but we're here supporting you. I am so proud of you. I love you. You're my new best friend, but you don't know it yet.
I'll be your new best friend. Absolutely.
Okay. Okay. All right. We'll keep on going on. I love it.
Thank you
and
so
much
much.
success.
Thank you so
Alrighty.
much.
No.
Recovery Addict is in the chat. Says, thanks again, Megan. Great interview. Boy, I wish I didn't have the tech problems I had. You know, Scott, you could have helped me with that probably. DM me. Maybe we'll figure out what my camera problem is. I have a brand new computer setup here, 32 gigs. There's no memory problems. There's no CPU problems. But for whatever reason, StreamYard starts locking up and my camera starts locking up. And the only thing that fixes it is a refresh of StreamYard. And I don't understand what's going on. I'm so bummed about it. I really thought that the problems would be over, and now I have to start troubleshooting all over again. So frustrating.
Call from
Brandy, please.
Brandy, welcome to the show.
Hey, Megan. It is so nice to talk to you.
You too.
I just want to, say thank you for all of your coverage, and I love Greg Anderson and all of them. They were great. And this case really does open up people's eyes to what's going on in the hospitals with doctors and CPS and all that. Fortunately, I've never had to deal with anything with CPS with myself, but I did have my custody of my niece for a little while, and she did have some issues, and I had to take her to an emergency room to get a mental eval. And I had a case where they asked me to leave the room, even though there was no reports of me doing anything. She hadn't said I did anything. She was there because she wanted to hurt herself. And I thought it was just very strange that they would ask me to leave the room. Like I didn't have any skin in the game, like I shouldn't know what was going on with her. She was in my custody through the courts. And to me, it's just one of those things again where, they don't want parents or guardians or anybody that's trying to take care of these children to have any voice in the matter.
Right.
And it's everywhere. So, but
it is
I just
everywhere.
want to say thank you for covering it, because if we didn't have people like you on YouTube trying to get the real story out there too, because the thousands of people that are watching CNN and NBC and all those crap shows, they're not understanding what the real story. They're being fed lies.
Yes,
like
lies.
Even after the verdict is read, even after the verdict has been read, they're still being lied to.
Yep, lies. Straight up lies. And it's straight up lies. Court TV, Julie at Court TV straight up lied to her Twitter audience. She called Maya liar, liar, pants on fire. That's what she did. She straight up lied.
It's disgusting.
It is disgusting. She wasn't watching, or she would have been all over that immediate Jeopardy report. There's no way she watched the trial, saw what happened, saw what went down, and then was like, what's a better story? The homecoming dress. No way. Which means somebody just fed her that story. And she wasn't
it's like they get their marching
watching.
Orders. Yeah, they get their marching orders and they just go out there and spill whatever, they were said to spill. I mean, I wish some of these people would just grow a pair, job on the line or not. Like, come on.
Yeah.
Just be honest with people for once. Like the lies that the media says. I love your stories too. I read your stories. You have a way with words, Megan.
Oh, thank you.
You really do. Like it engages me when I read your stories. It's not like reading a news article anywhere else. Like I'm like, yes, you got that sassy little attitude in there. And I love it. So keep up the good work.
Thank you so much. You take care.
You too. Bye-bye.
Bye. I love it when you guys call in. You're all so sweet to me. Everybody in the chat now thinks it's a StreamYard problem, but I will tell you, I have been on with StreamYard and they have no idea. They're claiming that this does not happen to anyone else. And they're sure that it's not them. They were the ones who told me it's because you only have 8 gigs. Now, admittedly, the reason why my computer was shutting down every hour was definitely an 8 gig problem. And that's not happening anymore. But the camera freezing still is, which means it's not me. It's not me, StreamYard. It's you. This is so frustrating. It's not the camera. I bought a new camera. It's not the camera. No. I'm getting really sick of it because I pay a lot of money for StreamYard and they are not following through on their...
Hey, Megan, it's Choosy.
To accept, press 1.
All right, Choosy. Hey, welcome to the program.
Hey, how you doing?
I'm good. How you doing?
I'm doing. Where are you in Mass? I thought you were upstate, New York.
New York, Rochester area.
Oh, that's right. Okay. So I'm oriented more or less. I think it's Sunday. No, it's Monday. All right. So now we're ready to go. How deep do we want to go?
Into what?
Into what the solution looks like, instead of us, wallowing into pain and even maybe worshiping it. What are we going to do? You've seen me around. What do you think?
I don't know. I don't know I'm not sure I know what you mean.
Well, I'm not confused or powerless. I ran the soap note for the whole world's problem as a retired physical therapist, stuck my neck out, opened my mouth, and there is a solution. Oh, I got to turn you off. Sorry.
It's okay.
Tablet's been giving me fits today. The solution is Peaceful Revolution Olympics in a nutshell. And based on the historical, constitutional, legal precedent of what happened in Portugal, 1974, the Carnation Revolution. And peaceful revolution is a thing, and it's not a military coup. It's not martial law. It's something that's the linear opposite. And history proves that because of the upfront expressed intentions of the arresting officers that nobody needs to get hurt for peace, and the proven non-fascist outcome. So I know that's heavy duty, and but we need to acknowledge our options at this point.
I'm all for peaceful solutions because I definitely hate war. So I'm with you on that one. I don't know what that looks like. Appreciate you calling in. Thanks for that. I don't know what it looks like, what peaceful solutions, I know what he's getting at, but I don't know what it looks like. I mean, protests, sit-ins, these days, if you protest, you could end up in a solitary confinement cell for 2 years with no trial. That's the issue. And so I think that we're at a real impasse here in this country where a lot of us don't feel safe to protest peacefully. A lot of us don't feel safe to speak out. And when you do speak out, sometimes you can be harshly punished. And I never thought that would happen here in the United States. Christy wants to know how often the last caller thinks about the Roman Empire. I would bet several times a day, 3 or 4, maybe 3 or 4. But that's not just him, because I do the same thing, although it's not 3 times a day, but at least once a week, I meditate on the Roman Empire. It's not just a guy thing. I know you guys think that, but it's not just a guy thing. We should be meditating on the Roman Empire. There's a lot to learn. All right, you guys, I'm going to continue this over on Locals, meganfox.locals.com. Why don't you get on over there, follow me there, use promo code Maya to get a free month, promo code SQUATS to get 2 free months when you sign up for a year. make sure that those are all caps when you type those in the promo code. And meet me over there, meganfox.locals.com. I'm going to go fire that up in a minute, and I'm going to get going. So I got a phone call to make, and then I'll be over on Locals. So those of you who are my Locals peeps, I'll see you there shortly. Take care, everybody. Thanks for coming.
I was so lost, my world is near its end. I almost felt my head is full of a million choices. I am alive, I'm not here to pretend. I love my friends, my heart is filled with a million voices. Oh, this road has many choices. Oh, in my heart, million voices. Come next to me, my friend, embrace the sky. I'm not afraid to fly. It's not the time to say goodbye. I don't wanna say goodbye. No, I don't wanna say. No, I don't wanna say goodbye. No, I don't wanna say goodbye. This time I know my road is near its end. I almost felt my head is full of a million choices. I am alive, I'm not here to pretend. I love my friends, my heart is filled with a million voices. Oh, this road has many choices. In my heart, million voices. Come next to me, my friend, embrace the sky. I'm not afraid to fly. It's not the time to say goodbye. I don't wanna say goodbye. No, I don't wanna say. No, I don't wanna say goodbye. No, I don't wanna say goodbye.
So I take it that
Johnny's
you've seen
problem is he
Cameron
should have
John's
come
bedroom
storming
before.
in there with
Yeah.
a string of
Do you
garlic
recall what
and
we
some
went
holy
into
water.
Mr. Dubson's
Across.
first
Cruise
bedroom
stick
with?
one.
May the
Do you
power of
recall,
Christ
or no, you
compel you.
No, I don't.
You
wasn't sure.
realized
Just
his house
heard-
was infested with
just up for
succubus or
that,
something.
there's a picture here with you of what it, yes. Do you recall what that was there
Succuloters.
when you arrived in the afternoon? I don't remember seeing it now. So while she
No wonder he said drown her before you burn her.
Oh my god.
You-
Your next witness?
Now I know
Witness
why
your
you wanted to
known
drown
as
her.
Glacis, and that is
Witness
also
lives in
by
Romania.
video.
Is that correct?
That begins with Miss